Laois and Dublin are out of the championship, but they're still going to have representatives on our Team of the Week, brought to you by Slattery and Sullivan Insurances in Nina. Call 067 56705 and use the reference our game and you'll get 10% off all new business quotes. So as I said, Laois are represented here. It's going to be in goals, and obviously we know Clare and Cork are the teams to go through after their wins over Laois and Dublin respectively. But starting off in the goals, I put Enda Rowland in there. I just feel that a couple of the saves that he made were vital enough in the first half to keep the O'Moore County in the race. There was one against Ryan Taylor that was after 10 minutes, and at that stage Clare had just scored a couple of points to come back level, so that was an important one. There was one a little bit later in the half. It was a really flowing move between David Reedy and Shane O'Morey, and it ended up with Shane O'Donnell, and he was snuffed out by Enda Rowland. So considering the way the game went, I was happy enough to give him the nod there, and a couple of the other goalkeepers might have made an error or two, so I just about felt he deserved it. You could make a case for Anthony Nash also, and I wouldn't probably argue the toss with you. The full back line, I've gone for Owen O'Donnell in cornerback, even though he went man-marking Patrick Horgan, and that did bring him out to the half-back line at times. But even so, I've named him in there. I think he was quite good, and he's had a good championship. He's done every job that he's been asked to do. Colm Spillane, very solid back in the full-back position for Cork, and a player that they've massively missed. I think you couldn't make a case that too many of the inside forward line for Dublin had a massive impact. Ronan Hayes and Eamon Dillon were both taken off, getting with just a point for Ronan Hayes, so obviously disappointing enough for them. Chris Crummy did go in and have a little bit of joy, but I think overall Colm Spillane certainly worth mention here, as is Sean Downey of Laois. They obviously slowed up Clare massively as the game went on in the second half, under a lot of pressure, and Aaron Shanahan was in there causing a little bit of wreck at times, but still in all I think he held up pretty well. So I'm going to put those three in the full back line. Half back line now, going to start off with Shane O'Morey wing back. Now I thought he might have actually been used as the spare man at the back, but he wasn't, and his driving runs forward definitely caused a lot of problems for Laois, such a speedster as we know over the years. Aidan Mccarthy played centre back, very young player as we've seen, and he's had a couple of cameos with the banner in the half back line, and he's sort of guy that they're probably going to have to build their half back line in the future, and just composed on the ball, good player, and worth his place here. Mark Coleman, arguably the player of the week. The way he destroyed Dublin in terms of the amount of possessions he got, how composed he was on the ball, just working it out so easily. And I think Tipperary will certainly be very wary of the idea of Coleman getting on the ball too often, so he was without doubt always going to be in the team. Now midfield, Cathal Malone, who was wing forward, we'll say, for Clare, but just how often he worked back down the field, and he was in around the midfield area as well, did a lot of good work. He had a good performance against Cian Lynch of Limerick, I felt, in the Munster quarter-final, and he's kept up his good form here. Luke Meade, he was just knitting things together really well for Cork in their win over Dublin, got a point after, what was it, 10 seconds or something like that, and just always on the ball and knitting play together. And I don't think there's anyone from Dublin you could necessarily put into the midfield conversation. And even looking at, like, David McInerney started off well with a couple of points, hit a few bad wides, and after that he obviously got sent off, so he wasn't in the conversation. Fiacre Fennell did some good stuff for Laois, so you might talk about him in this, but I've decided to go for these two players. Now the half forward line, Robbie O'Flynn was an absolute guaranteed pick in here, getting 5 points. Danny Sutcliffe, on a team that was losing and struggling to win ball in that forward line, he scored 3 points, kept taking the game to Cork throughout. He was blocked down at one stage, took too long, winding up for a strike. But I think still in all, when your team is really struggling, I think it's always worth mentioning players who do step up in those circumstances. So Sutcliffe gets the nod there. And Aaron Dunphy, just his ability to run through the centre of that Clare defence. In the first half, he knocked over a point early doors, and then he soloed straight up the guts of that Clare defence once again. This time he was hooked, but it allowed Ross King to whip a ball into the net. So a couple of other guys you could have mentioned in that line, but gone with those three. And I think Tony Kelly was without doubt going to be named here now. He had a free role, and at times he was in the full forward line, at times he was out around midfield. We know he can play anywhere, so that's no hassle to him whatsoever. Finished the game with as many as 13 points, 4 of them coming from play. Now Ryan Taylor was decent, but I think Aaron Shanahan had to come in here as well. 3 points from play, won a lot of frees, a lot of damage came off him. So he was definitely going to be named here. A couple of wides as well, but you're going to allow for that. I've just picked him, and then Shane Kingston was the other forward that I went with. I think as ever he was on fire, and he's setting himself up for sort of an all-star season, and somebody that Tipperary will be very much keeping an eye on for this for the All Ireland qualifier round 2 coming this weekend. So that's my team of the week. If you think there's anyone I missed out on, anyone that shouldn't be in there, please let me know. And just again, brought to you by Slattery Sullivan Insurances in Nina. Call 067 56705 and get 10% off a quote on new business with the promo code OurGame.